Howdy heretics, I just got some inside information from one of my PMOs that I'd like to share with you. It's kind of fun. And I've been working with the 2020 protest season all week. My goal is to have 12 hashtag all religions must protest 2020 on at least 3 continents, and we're making progress, but it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun because the witnesses are changing their routines. If you ever been a Jehovah's Witness and you used to go to the convention, well, they were boring, but I feel they were kind of a money-making machine, especially the international convention, because the international delegates would buy a ticket including hotel and everything, and it wasn't necessarily cheap, and I strongly believe they were making a profit. So it's kind of weird. In 2019, the witnesses had 24 international conventions, and this year, 2020, they'll only have 8. So why would they do that if it's a money-making machine? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're losing money, or maybe there's something else. I noticed they say to media in Australia, I think they said that they were expecting 60,000 attendees, but to the rank and file they said 47,000. So normally when you have some business scheme, you think like, if I push 1,000 units, I break even. If I push another 1,000 units, I can pay my employees. So everything more than 2,000 units is a profit. So if the society, Watchtower Society, was expecting 60,000, but it only came 47,000, well, then they're not making money. But I've been thinking about that, and I think even as a PME, I noticed that the number in the newspaper were always bigger than the one that was announced at the convention. And I think that's the theocratical warfare doctrine. It's important to remember that many of the witnesses actually believe in all this mumbo jumbo, and the theocratical warfare doctrine is that you're allowed to give wrong or misleading information to people that do not have the right to know the correct information. And Watchtower actually believe that the rank and file are entitled to know how many is on the convention. So they will announce on this convention there were 47,000 attending, but the media, they are, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, controlled by Satan. And you're allowed to lie to Satan. So to media they will say an inflated number, which is kind of interesting, because if Satan really existed and were a real person, wouldn't he be able to find out how many Jehovah's Witnesses there is in the convention hall? But anyway, so they say one number to media, another to the rank and file. So I don't know why. I would really like to know why they go from 24 international convention to 8. There must be an explanation. I believe John Redwood when he says that Watchtower never does anything without a reason, because as far as I know them, there's always a reason, but they will never tell you. So there must be a reason. Anyway, they are changing stuff. And when I was in the Melbourne protest outside the convention, peaceful protest, but I saw something I never seen before, and was that you had to show your convention badge. You had this little convention badge. You have to show your convention badge to come in, at least on Fridays, which absolutely doesn't make any sense, because anyone with Photoshop can make their own badge. But there was a line, and they were saying on a loudspeaker that stay in line and have your badges ready for inspection. Doesn't make any sense, but I don't know. They were doing that. And from a religious perspective, how would it work? Isn't that supposed to be the house of God? Imagine a truth-seeking person. The angel should lead him to the convention. Now they can't do that unless he has a convention badge. Could you imagine Jesus, the Sermon of the Mount, that the apostles were walking a big circle around the mountain and saying, unless you are at least this pharisaical, you're not allowed to enter? It doesn't make any sense. But now, I got from my PMO is that they announced that you cannot go into the international, at least in Prague, the international convention, unless you have a QR code. And this QR code is personal and non-transferable. And they say this is due to fire regulations. And normally when Watchtower says something, it's not true. And in this case, okay, I'm not a computer nerd, but if you need to... Fires, it's not a new thing, and there's a way of taking care of fire regulations that worked up until now, before QR codes. But if you would need a computer system to monitor how many it's inside the building because of fire regulations, I would applaud that. That's a good thing. But you do not need individual codes. You could just have everyone using the same barcode. Click when you go in and click when you go out. Then you know the number of attendees. But with individual non-transferable codes, that means that they only want the people they want. It's to keep out apostates, which is a good thing. I'm not going in there anyway, if I'm not invited. So, so that's one of the new things. If you've ever been an attendant on a convention, it's very well organized, and you get a script what to say. And one of the things is, if there's a media person, you should always first ask him what media he represents. It sounds very professional, and they're trained to do that. So I remember I introduced media to the convention in Copenhagen. I told her, to ask for Stephen Lett. And well, she was not allowed to talk to him, but she spoke to the media apartment of Watchtower, and they educate their own media apartment, and that's very visible because they're very serious, very alpha male, talking blah blah blah. But it shines through that they actually believe in the mumbo jumbo, and they act like Jehovah's Witnesses. And one thing they said to this journalist, it was, "You are not allowed to film inside. You are allowed to film outside, but you're not allowed to talk to any of the witnesses." And this journalist was like, they're grown-ups. According to the number Watchtower gave us, they said, I think 25,000 Jehovah's Witnesses. So there are 25,000 grown-ups on public land. And this trained media monkey tell the journalist that you're not allowed to talk to them. I've been thinking about this. There's only two situations I can think about that I could tell other people that you're not allowed to talk to other grown-ups. And that would be if I would be the warden of a jail, I could tell you you're not allowed to talk to the inmates. Or if I were a slave owner, you're not allowed to talk to my slaves. And that's kind of a very Watchtower way of thinking. They actually told the journalist that you're not allowed to talk to any of these 25,000 grown-ups walking on public land outside the venue we hired. They're kind of creepy, and that's one of the reasons why peaceful protesting is fun, because they really show their cultiness as soon as we show up. If we are not there, they open all the doors and say, "This is open venue, everyone's welcome. And you can ask questions. You can even ask critical questions. Everyone is welcome." But as soon as we come there instead with our big, angry, aggressive sign that says, "Please respect human rights," then they close up and they, "Who are you? You're not allowed to come here." But it's kind of fun that they are trained to ask, "What media do you represent?" Because Jehovah's Witnesses believe media is from Satan. So I've seen it many times, and they always ask, "What media do you represent?" And then they don't listen to the answer because it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter if it's Devil's Daily or Wicked Weekly or Saturdays with Satan. All is devil. It's controlled by Satan. So they ask, "What media do you represent?" They don't listen to the answer, and then they go on with the script. It's a scripted thing they teach to say. So when I was in Melbourne, I was walking around with my camera, and a young brother attendant, he came up to me. He was very serious, doing his job, and he said, "Are you a media person?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And then he forgot to ask me what media I represented. So he just went on with the script and said, I've been instructed to invite all media personnel to our media department. Will you like to talk to our media department? I said, you want me to come into the convention hall, talk to your media department? Yes, please. And then he said, are you filming right now? I said, no, I'm not. And then he said, could I please see your camera and control that you're not filming? I said, no. And he was a little embarrassed. And then we started walking, and then he called his superior, and they asked the question that he forgot. The first question they're supposed to ask, what media is from. So he was talking, and then he was looking at me upside down, and well, this guy is from the I Escaped the Jehovah Witness Love Never Shun media. So I never got into interview the media spokesperson. And I think that poor young Jehovah Witness brother, he will not be an elder the first year. He's not up for promotion, so to speak. He invited the apostates into the convention to talk to the media spokesperson. Now we're having a lot of fun. It's a fun protest. And if you go to an international convention now, what they do, if you see John Cedar's channel, they have this, Dancing for Jehovah. What they do, they go to the airport, and they're just standing with big signs saying, welcome delegates. And every international convention has their own logo and their own color coding. So all these welcoming committees crowded in the airport, and all the sisters have scarves with matching color to the logo, and all the brothers have ties matching to the logo, and they look like Scientologists. It's kind of fun. But I come with the same plane as the witnesses, so I always go to them and say, are you Jehovah Witnesses? So nice. My grandmother is a Jehovah Witness, that's true. And I talk to them, and they love bomb me, and it's really nice. I'm very love bombable. And I take selfies with them, and I don't unwitness. Why should I destroy their happy moment, So I just talk to them, and they give me the time to the convention, so I promise I will go there. And then they get a little disappointment when they see me as an apostate, but I never lied to them. It's just nice. We disagree on some things. Anyway, Watchtower changed the routines again. So now I'm not able to do that anymore. They changed the routine. So instead of just being in the airport, welcoming people and kind of giving a good witness to everyone, now they will pick up the delegates individually and take them to their hotel or something like that, I suppose. So they will come to the airport and be standing like brother A, sister A, brother B, nice to see you, love, 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 Jehovah, Jehovah, blah, 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 and take them to the airport. So they cannot interact with the apostates on the airport, I think. Because it's much more work and much less fun to do that way, to pick them up individually. We actually used to have a lot of fun in the airport. I have like a ton of selfies with Jehovah Witnesses. And but no, we can't do that anymore. And that reminds me of Soviet. Because in the good old days, you could actually buy a vacation to Moscow if you wanted. Even during, Iron Curtain and everything. And what you did, you got this package trip. So they would pick you up at the airport. They would take you to the hotel. They would knock at the hotel door, and they would take you down to the restaurant and say, dinner is ready. Then they would take you to the discotheque. Then they would take you home. Then they would take you to the next hotel. Then they would take you to the museum. So you could go there, but they would make sure they always knew where you were. And if you wanted to call home, you had to apply for, kind of ask for a telephone call in advance, because they had to find someone that would listen in, a KGB agent that would listen into your call. And a friend told me sometimes he would forget and start talking his own dialects. In Scandinavia we have a lot of weird dialects, so if you started speaking a dialect because you were speaking to family members, so you just fall into the pattern, then the phone call would break directly, because then the KGB agent did not understand what we said. So the international convention is being more and more like a holiday in Soviet. They know where you are and who you're talking to. And that's kind of weird and kind of sad. We're having peaceful protests focusing on human rights. And that means we also support the human rights of Jehovah's Witnesses. If Jehovah's Witnesses want to be Jehovah's Witnesses, we support them. They're allowed to do that. But Watchtower is not allowed to violate human rights. This Watchtower is not the same as Jehovah's Witnesses. If you don't believe me, just ask to get your money back. Then they will say, this is not Jehovah's Witness money. This is the society's money. You will not get your money back because Watchtower is not Jehovah's Witnesses. So, I'm working with the protest this year. Hashtag all religions must. My goal is 12 protest, peaceful protest. We're having so much fun, and I've been working all week. And my list of names, some of the names I had to scratch, like Nigeria, probably, maybe still will happen, but I need to find new people to help me. But Prague in Czech Republic will happen. That's a wonderful place. I will go there personally, and there's cheap beer. And then Silkeborg, Denmark. And Denmark, that convention, it will be outside, you know, the convention hall that's shaped like a triangle and all the conspiracy theories. We will not protest the conspiracy theories. We will protest human rights. Then we have North Carolina. And there's a brother I'm working with, and we're thinking about Panama, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic. Imagine if we get all three of them. That would be so cool. And then another guy I'm talking about Zurich and Nairobi. So maybe Africa. This will be so much fun. And I've been writing the mission statement for the Prague Convention. And so this is a Prague Convention protest. I'm so tired now. So this is the draft, but I'm going to read it now because we need to get the ball rolling. But I send it to someone that speaks better English than me to do kind of remove my crappy English and make beautiful English. And then when we have the mission statement, we will translate it to Finnish, Russian, and Czech. We hope to have a protest in Helsinki too. Funny thing with Prague is that there will be a lot of Russian delegates. So we will have signs and everything in Russia. And Watchtower is illegal in Russia. Jehovah's Witnesses is not illegal. You're allowed to believe in Jehovah. You're allowed to believe that the moon is a blue cheese in Russia. You believe whatever you want. But there has been report of torture and stuff like that. That's not cool. You have to know the difference between evil Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses. All Russian citizens, or Norwegian or American, must be respected for their freedom of religion. Also the Jehovah's Witnesses. So we're getting some credibility when we're actually supporting the witnesses in that case. So this is the mission statement. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm tired. And this is just a draft, but still. Ex-Jehovah's Witness protest hashtag all religions must is not a protest against Jehovah's Witnesses as individuals. We support their right to choose their religion and practice their beliefs. We also support their rights to raise their children in that faith, as long as these don't violate the children's rights protected in the UN Child Convention. Our protest is against the human right violations committed by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, that is the legal organization behind the belief system. Watchtower use intimidation and extortion to refuse their members to leave the religion without losing their family. This is a violation of Article 9 in the European Convention of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or beliefs and freedom. Watchtower claim that they have the right to punish people that leave the religion by means of shunning. We believe this is a violation of human rights, and we protest in support of all those Jehovah's Witnesses that cannot protest themselves because of fear to lose their family. The Prague Convention will have a big number of Jehovah's Witnesses from Russia. We welcome these brothers and sisters to Czech Republic. We do. We support the right to freedom of religion and ask the Russian authorities to protect the right to belief and freedom of worship. there are valid reasons to describe some of Watchtower's practices as extremist and sometimes dangerous. Watchtower is a printing company and not human. A printing company has therefore no human rights to be violated. I'm not protecting Watchtower, they had their own lawyer. We stand 100% for the human rights of all individual Russian citizens, including the Jehovah's Witnesses that many of us still consider our brothers and sisters. Sadly, there have been reports of human rights violation against Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. We demand that the Russian authorities respect the human rights of all Russian citizens. Many of the protesters grew up within the Jehovah's Witness religion. Many will tell their personal testimony of how the Watchtower in various ways violates the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. We demand that the Czech Republic make sure that no organization working within the borders of Czech Republic violate human rights, and especially the UN Convention of the Rights of a Child. We demand that any religion that violates said rights should immediately lose government funding, tax exemption, and charitable status. Hashtag all religions must. So, that's our mission statement. It's the draft. Alexandra James will help me to write better English, and then we will translate it and so on. So we will have so much fun if you support this mission statement, because we're having secular protests. So if you want to have a protest, that my Jesus is better than Watchtower Jesus, you're allowed to do that. I support you. You can have your own protest. This is a secular protest, and we're working against legislators, we're working against politicians, and we're working with media. So it's a secular protest. So, I'm tired. Sorry, I'm rambling. But if you support us, please stay tuned. There will be protests in America. There will be several protests in Europe. We will have so much fun. If you would like to arrange a protest, take contact and we'll see what we can do. So, see you in Prague and Paradise.